Editing Melinda. If you see this video, I'm not sure you will, that means I figured out how to edit this on my phone because the video was not going to my computer. I was thinking of just passing up this week, and I may still if you don't see this video, but that just means next week's video is going to be super long, so I wanted to at least get this out if I could. So we'll see. We'll see if I can edit this on my phone. Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda. I know I look like crap right now. There's good reason for that, and that is because I feel like crap. That first cold of the year, which totally just like knocks you on your butt, is coming to our house. My daughter had it, and then my husband and I got it like at the exact same time, to the point like we're waking each other up coughing at night. It's weird, but my son has dodged that bullet. He's the kid who doesn't get sick. Very rarely gets sick. In fact, he got COVID, and he's the one who brought COVID into our house. My husband, my daughter, and I, we were sick. I mean, we were vaccinated and everything, so we weren't super sick, but we were sick. He like coughed a couple times, sneezed a couple times, and then played video games for weeks. So speaking of my son, it is his 13th birthday today. He is now a teenager. Oh my goodness. Time flies. So yeah, we're not, I kept asking what he wanted for his birthday. He didn't want to do anything super special. So I'm making his favorite dish for dinner tonight. I'm going to go get him an ice cream cake because he wanted ice cream and, gifts, and that's about it. He had originally planned to we're going to watch the first episode of Loki because we thought that the first episode of Loki dropped today. It was originally announced it would drop this week, but it actually dropped last night. So we watched it last night, and Loki is awesome. I know we watch, I watch all of the Disney Plus Marvel TV shows. I think I'm the only one in the family who's seen them all, but most of them are really great because they're like appointment television in our house. Like everybody sits down and watches it together. There have been some exceptions to that. My husband, for some reason, did not want to watch Ms. Marvel, which is too bad because it's a super, super cute show. My kids were not interested in Secret Invasion, which that's a tough one because it's not a great show, but it's not a great show because it was originally supposed to be a movie, and then because of the whole COVID thing, they decided to make it a TV show, but also because of COVID, they had to be careful how they filmed it. It just didn't work together, but whatever. But Loki is the best series, and it's back, and it's awesome. So, and next Friday, you know what's coming next Friday to Apple TV? Lessons in Chemistry. I will be watching it. I'm claiming the television. I don't know if they drop it at midnight or if they drop it later, but I will watch it as soon as I can. I don't know if I'm going to force my family to watch it with me. My husband probably won't watch it. He doesn't like Brie Larson, so he probably won't watch it. I don't really want him talking through it either, so we'll see. But I might have my daughter watch it with me. She'd probably like it. Anyway, I debated not doing this wrap up today because I'm clearly not feeling well. And if there's weird jumps in this, it's because I'm having to edit out me hacking up along. But I have thoughts, so I thought I better get this down. And before I get into the books, I wanted to start something. I've been meaning to start this, and I just haven't gotten my stuff together. But I am going to do this, and I'm going to do it in my first weekly wrap-up of the month going forward. And I'm just going to share a channel for y'all to check out. These are either smaller booktubers that I feel needs to get more attention, or they're maybe some larger, more established booktubers, but they're kind of outside of the sort of circle that I'm kind of find myself in. So a lot of the people who watch me and I watch them might not watch this person. Does that make any sense? So anyway, and I'm making a list. I'm just sort of randomly picking. So today, this month's channel to go check out is Kevin at Kevin's Novel Advice. I love Kevin's videos. He has a really great sense of fun, and sometimes he goes into costume. It's very cute, and his videos are short and to the point. He has some really great thoughts. Our Venn diagram is kind of like this. You can't really tell. There's overlap, but there's not overlap in places. He's a little bit more science fiction fantasy than I am, But that's okay, because then I get some ideas about, like, if I want to try some sci-fi or fantasy. There you go. So anyway, his videos are really a lot of fun, and I recommend you go check him out. And that's Kevin's Novel Advice. And I will put him down there. So go check out Kevin. You'll really like him. Okay, so let me get to the right screen here. Last week, I finished 3 books. I thought I had only finished 2 books, and then I realized that I finished 1 book right at the end of September that wasn't in last week's update. And that is The Locked Room by Elly Griffiths, which is number 14 in the Ruth Galloway series, the penultimate episode. You know what I'm trying to say. Brains, we're not firing on all cylinders today. So this is the lockdown one, and this is the one that really got me. And I've done a video, but I don't think I'm going to use it because the video didn't turn out very well. But about like different COVID novels and how they affected me. But this is the one that got me for reasons that would be kind of spoilery for me to get into. There's a couple reasons. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I think this was the one that like really got me that anxiety up for me, and not something like The Sentence, which is very COVID forward. But I think part of it is because I don't have COVID right now, by the way. I should point that out. I've tested. It's not COVID. We're far enough away from the hardest part of the pandemic that maybe I feel a little freer about kind of letting some of those feelings out when I read. Also, because this is the 14th book in the series, I feel like I have relationships with these characters, so when the character is in peril, that's much more like someone I know being in peril. There's also, in the video that no one's going to see because it's a crappy video, one of the books I talked about was 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard, which I read kind of mid-pandemic. In fact, it was before I had even had COVID, but which we did May 2022. It was no big deal. It wasn't a big deal. We're vaccinated. It's all good. And our vaccinations are up to date. But that one, this video is probably gonna be really quiet. I'm sorry, but this is a lot that I can talk. That one, like I had sort of that anxiety, but it was because the lockdown side of it, because in Ireland and pretty much any other developed country besides the US had stricter lockdown. The US, we lacked any kind of leadership, but they had much stricter lockdown, and I think that kind of like fed into a little bit of that anxiety. And there is a little bit of that in The Locked Room, but a lot of the characters don't really follow the lockdown guidelines, so maybe not. But anyway, I really enjoyed that. I ended up giving that one an A+, which I think is the highest I've given that series. Not even really because the mystery was fine. It wasn't super memorable against the other mysteries in that series, but just the fact that evoked so many emotions in me is why I gave that one an A+. The next book I finished, I don't have with me. I mean, I have it, but it's packaged to be sent out because it's for my postal book group. So if any of my postal book groups, I don't think any of you watch this, but if any of you are, like, skip ahead a while, just kind of go away, because unless you're going to know what you're going to be reading. And that is, let me get the author here. It's The Light Pirate by Lily Brooks-Dalton. Now, I actually had been recommended Goodnight Midnight, something like that, her previous book by someone, and I have it on my one of my e-readers. And I plan to read it. It just hasn't come up in the random draw yet. So I didn't even know that the second book, The Light Pirate, existed. And this is climate fiction. And the setup is, it's at some point in the future. It's got to be kind of the near future. So in it, they reference Hurricane Maria, which happened in 2017, 2018, and kind of really hit Puerto Rico. So they mentioned that happened. And then they mentioned that another hurricane called Poppy comes, and that really devastates Puerto Rico. So that had already happened. So you know you're like in the future at some point, at least a couple of years in the future from when you read it, unless Hurricane Poppy has happened. I don't know. I mean, I do know that it hasn't happened, but it could. Who knows? Anyway, so we come in on this family in Florida. So those two, this is kind of where we are, setting the stage for where we are in sort of the climate. We're a couple of years in the future, hurricanes are getting worse. And we come in on this family in Florida. One more reason not to live in Florida. Sorry for any Floridians who watch it. It's not personal. It's not you. It's the state. And this family's getting ready for Hurricane Wanda. And Wanda's coming in. Now, the mother, or I should say the wife, because it's a man, his 2 children, and his new wife who is pregnant. The mother, the new wife, really just wants to leave. She's like, I want to get out of here. She had lost her mother. Again, this is all first chapter stuff, not spoilery. She had lost her mother in that big hurricane in Puerto Rico, the one that's yet to come. And that's also where she met her husband, Kirby. And so she's there. She wants to leave, but she's also very pregnant. And the kids are like, whatever. And the kids don't really like her because she's like the stepmom and all this. And Kirby is a lineman. Kirby gets called out to work during this storm. And the kids wander off in the middle of the storm. And the mother, Frida, I think is her name, goes into labor and ends up delivering a baby during the storm, who they name Wanda. That's all I'm going to say about it, because anything else is spoilers. But this book follows as Wanda grows up, and you see, how climate change is impacting her world, and it's pretty bleak. I really enjoyed this book. I thought the writing was absolutely gorgeous, like beautiful prose. The characters were so well done. And for a book that's not super plot driven, it's very propulsive. I ended up giving it an A instead of an A+ though, because one thing that did kind of frustrate me with this book, and this might just be a me problem, is it's basically told in, I think, 4 chunks. So there's kind of a time chunk between each chunk. And to me, that was very distracting, because I kind of wanted to know what happened between the last section and this section. And sometimes she'd go back and talk about it, and sometimes she wouldn't. And she being the author. And so I found that a little frustrating, which is why I gave it an A and not an A+. And then the third book I finished, thank God, was this book, Tightrope, Americans Reaching for Hope. I am discussing this with my book club tomorrow. I have ranted about this for a couple weeks now, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to rant some more. My rant so far has been, I've been reading it, and the authors never talk about childcare. And I do want to say, now that I have finished it, that, let me see if I get it here. There's the text, the narrative of this, where is it? The narrative of this book is 262 pages, and they do finally mention the words childcare on page 254. It's never really discussed. It's like the first thing they say that you could do, yeah, and if it's so important, why didn't you talk about it in this book? And it was so frustrating to me, because that's such an important part of the poverty issue in the United States, but also with the rural poor, there's an added difficulty sometimes in just even the availability and the accessibility of childcare, and that's something that should be tackled. And they don't even mention it in here. I mean, other than like right at the end. I'm like so furious. But oddly enough, that's not what made me the most angry with this book. And I want to preface this by saying there's a lot in this book I 100% wholeheartedly agree with. There's a lot that I was really fascinated to learn and shocked to learn, and I am glad I read it for those reasons. But I'm really disturbed about a feature of this book. And this book is, and this is going to sound really weird, this book is like pro-marriage in a way that I don't think is healthy. They kept, so it started out, and I think I've mentioned this before, they kept talking about like the marriage rate and single parents, and that's a sign of poverty. And I have said in the past that yes, there are some concrete things that you can kind of look at and see how they feed into poverty, like education. But when you look at like the rate of single parent homes, that's, you aren't, what you're measuring is not really what you're measuring, because what you're really measuring is stability for children. And while ideally having 2 parents would probably be more stable, there are a lot of single parent homes that are incredibly stable, and there are a lot of 2 parent homes that are incredibly unstable. And so I really just in general have a problem with that fact being brought up over and over again. And then they start talking about incarceration rates. And then one of the things they say, I think this is really weird, they say, yeah, when men come out of prison, they're not marriageable. Like, what? What? like, why is that an issue? I mean, I would think the bigger issue would be like, are they employable? You know, are they, you know, are they to reform to a point where they can be a productive member of society? So I was like really kind of strange by that. And then they get to this whole section about marriage and the importance of marriage. And there is a sort of hand wavy, yeah, hey, we know that sometimes, you know, there's abusive marriages and sometimes a single parent can do well. And then they go on to say all these things about how dangerous it is to children to live in a family with only one parent. So again, my hackles are up because I'm like, that's not what you're measuring. But then the way they start talking about it was it's all from the benefit of men. Like marriage is all about a benefit for men. And it's apparently, and the message I get from that is that it is a woman's duty to domesticate men so that they can be, you know, contributing members of society. What? That is ridiculous. I mean, that's offensive on every way you look at it, because it's offensive to women. No, that's not our job. I mean, yes, as a parent, when we're raising children, that is our job. But it's really not our job to like make our husbands like that. Ideally, they will already be like that when we marry them. And two, for men, like apparently men can't like be civilized without women. Like what? And then I started taking this a little bit further, and if you were to take that element out of this book, there'd be no reason to discuss LGBTQ issues in this book, because there just it wouldn't be in the scope. But now that they've brought the whole marriage thing in, what about people who are, you know, not interested in members of the, you know, are not interested in members of the opposite sex, people who are gay, bisexual, lesbian, asexual, any of those, they have to fit into this cookie cutter society for it to work. And I wanted to throw this book across the wall. I was so offended by it. After I finished this book, I went and I looked up Nick Kristof, and I did know a little bit about him because, as I said before, he was raised in Oregon, very near to where I live now, like 20 miles away, just over there is where he was raised. But in 2022, he tried to run for governor of Oregon. He left Oregon, went to Harvard. Congrats, great job. Especially when you realize the people he grew up with. He went to Harvard, that's fantastic. He went to Oxford, that's fantastic. He's an opinion writer for the New York Times. Fabulous, whatever. But he tried to run for governor of Oregon. He does not live in Oregon. His family farm, they had an orchard. He's turned it into a winery, which I know sounds very frou-frou, but actually that's a really good business to be in this part of the state, is wineries. And I'm sure that he's very successful. So he owns that property, but he lives in New York. So he tried to run for governor and they wouldn't let him on the ballot because he didn't meet residency requirements, which I think is a good call. So I did know a little bit about him, but I actually went looking for him to see, you know, what are your political views really? And also, what is your religious background? And I don't want to put too much of this on religion, except that there are some tendrils of Christianity that start going into areas that they went here that I don't think are healthy, and I also don't think are very Christian. And I didn't see any of that. I don't know what's up with this. And I will be really interested tomorrow, if I can talk, when discussing with my book club, like if I'm the only person who got this. I didn't get a chance, but before I did this video, I was going to go look at the other Goodreads reviews to see if I am the only person who noticed this. But man, this book was so infuriating. So what I am reading now that Short Story September is over, I'm adding back in the short story collections I have going. So now we're in short story fourth quarter while I finish all these. So my TBR is at, or my currently reading list is at 12. Now I am going to go through everything that I am currently reading. 7 of those are short story collections that are in process. So let me start with the non-short story collections. In print, I have 2 books going. The first book that I have going, which I'm going to finish today, and this will be the book that gets me to my Goodreads goal of 144 books this month, but I am going to finish this one today because I cannot put it down, is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I'd never read Grady Hendrix before. I asked people where I should start. This was sort of the unanimous answer was, and I'm glad because this is fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It's reminding me a lot of and We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Berry. That's a little more literary. This is definitely revels in the camp more, but it's still a lot of fun. Lots of 80s callbacks. Yeah, so this has been really fun. Thank you to everyone who told me I should read this. It will definitely not be my last Grady Hendrix. In fact, it may not even be my last Grady Hendrix book this month. We'll see. The second book I have going in print. Oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope. This is the Victober group read. Oh my God. I'm caught up. I am caught up. Now, this is requiring a good half hour to an hour of reading a day. That's a big chunk of time, and I can't say I'm totally loving it. I can't say I'm sold on Anthony Trollope being a writer for me. A lot of the things that I kind of don't like about Jane Austen, I find in here. So, I don't know. I'm going to finish it because I bought it. So I'm going to finish it. It's just, it's sort of, you know, an Everest for me. I need to climb my Everest. But yeah, starting it may have been a mistake. The other thing is, man, this print is tiny. I do regret getting a print copy, although I wanted it so I could put it on my shelf. It's like a trophy for finishing. But it is hard. I mean, just hard for my eyes to read. Yeah, so I'm working on my way through this. People talking a lot about money. That's what's going on in here. Okay. My audiobooks, or excuse me, my ebooks. I had a plan to read a book called The Volga Tale, which is a Russian novel about, like, I believe it's about, like, the German settlers in the Volga area, which was my family. They were among that. And I honestly just came to the point where I realized that and The Way We Live Now were too much together. I didn't even open it. I just sort of like, you know what, this is, I can't handle that this month while I have this other book going. So I put that to the side. I am going to read it. I'm looking to read it probably in like January. So it's coming. So instead, right now, I am reading What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, which is retelling the Fall of House of Usher, which I've never read, so that's lost on me. Lots of mushrooms. It's fun. It's what I read. It's what I read when I go pick up my daughter and I'm sitting in the pickup line because I have to get there early so I can park in front of the crosswalk so I can leave the school before 5 o'clock. It's a long story. Yeah, so I'm enjoying it. I've enjoyed two T. Kingfishers in the past, both of which have been about Your Mean Grandma's House. So I'm glad that this is not about Your Mean Grandma's House. But yeah. The other one that I'm still reading are The Daughters of Block Island by Christa, Carmen, and this publishes on Tuesday. I would very much like to have this done so I can do my video review if I can speak. To have it up on Tuesday, I can't guarantee it at this point. If I'd like to do that, I need to read more than a chapter a night. I've made the decision that I'm done with I mean, I'm gonna, at my own pace, I'm going to finish up my NetGalley books, but then I'm not going to do any more NetGalley except if there's like a book that I desperately want. But yeah, NetGalley just messes me up. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. So yeah. And then on audio, I am listening to None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, which is fun. This is a great book for audio because there's a podcast element to it. There's basically two main narrators that narrate each of the female characters, and they're both very good. And then there's like a guide. It's worth doing it on audio. I think if I were reading it, I would never put it. I don't know what's going on in this book. Like, there's weird stuff happening. I don't know yet. I'm not far enough to like really know. But so that is my non-short story collection of what we're currently reading. Now, if you have watched my short story updates, the last one of which went up yesterday, it's kind of a messy video, but I did the best I could. I was not feeling great. I was feeling better when I filmed it because I filmed it on Sunday, and that was when my daughter got sick. I was feeling okay, but then I edited it when I was sick. So, but anyway, if you have seen these books will look familiar, but I will go through them and kind of tell you kind of where I am with them. So, The Angel of Rome and Other Stories by Jess Welter. I am so loving this book. I finished the titular short story today, which was kind of long. It's kind of the novella that's stuck in the middle of the book, although it does look like the last story is kind of long too. We'll get there when we get there. I love Jess Welter. Oh, so much. other than there's a story called Drafting that didn't really work for me. And part of that is because there's a character with cancer and I don't want to read that right now. But other than that, all these stories have been fantastic. So very good. I'm having a lot of fun with this one. I'm running out of space to put these. Okay. And then the next one that I have going is Hate Ship, Friendship, Courtship, Love Ship, Marriage by Alice Munro. This is a little beat up copy. I pulled this out of a little free library. I am enjoying this one. Alice Munro is a short story author who does challenge me. I really have to think about her stories and sort of process them. And if you look back at my update videos, sometimes I haven't gotten to the point where I've really processed the stories yet. But I definitely want to read more of Alice Munro. The next one I have is The Yellow Wallpaper and Other Stories by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. The first story in here was The Yellow Wallpaper, which I had never read. Now I have. The stories in here are pretty short. They're very feminist, and they're very interesting from an almost historical point of view because a lot of them are written around the turn of the 20th century, and they're very forward thinking. And I wonder how they were received when they were originally published. But not all the stories in here have worked for me, but a lot of them have. Then I have Skin by Roald Dahl. Let me tell you, Roald Dahl was an interesting guy. Boy, these are disturbing stories. Well, the two I've read so far in this are pretty disturbing. I guess, maybe Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach weren't disturbing, but they're definitely weird. He just goes a little bit farther into disturbing in here, but I'm enjoying them. This is labeled YA. I think it's from the library. I think it's labeled YA because it's Roald Dahl. I don't know if I would call these YA stories. Gotta be honest. The next one I have is the short story collection that I will be reading for a little while. But I'm really excited about it, and it's Never Whistle at Night. An Indigenous dark fiction anthology. I've only read 2 stories. The first one that I have read was by an author who's not been published anywhere else before, and it's called Kushtuka, and it's an Alaskan Native story. It's really good. It's very chilling. And then the second one I read is by Rebecca Roanhorse, who I have read. Rebecca Roanhorse, she's fantastic, and it was a fantastic story in here. I was like, that's good. So 2 for 2 out of this one. Highly recommend it. This is actually being published on Tuesday, so go get a copy. And then this kind of goes under the same umbrella as Alice Munro. I'm reading stories by Edna O'Brien. Again, I'm just a couple stories in on this one. Edna O'Brien kind of came on. I mean, I've heard of her. I've never read her, but I've heard her around. But the idea of reading short stories by her came when I was watching Priscilla at the Evening Reader, because she was reading some short stories by Edna O'Brien. So when I went to pick up some holds at the library, I just wandered upstairs to see if they had one of her short story collections, and they did. So I'm reading that. And then finally, you thought Roald Dahl was weird. I'm reading Life Ceremony by Sayaka Murata. If you haven't been following along, I did reach cannibalism about halfway through the book. I knew it was coming. The weirdest part about the cannibalism and lots of sex, was that I was not weirded out by it as much as I thought it would be. So this is kind of a interesting collection. So there's 2 stories that I read since Short Story September. The first one was, it's called Body Magic. And it's actually this very empowering, sex positive story of like high school girls just claiming their own sexuality. It's a beautiful story. It was amazing. The next story was about having sex with a curtain. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this. But yeah, reading it. If you've never read Sayaka Murata, start with Convenience Store Woman, because it's less strange than this. So those are all my short story collections, what I am currently reading. And I've got a raging headache now. I need to go do something about this. And hopefully the next time you see me, I will have makeup on again and be able to talk a little bit louder so you can probably hear me. Anyway, if you made it this far, yay for you. I'm impressed. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please come talk to me on my Discord server. Information is down below. And I will see you next time. Thank you.